our next spotlight session, please welcome Chantal Line Carpentier, Garry Jacobs, and Walt Stinson to the stage.
Good morning. I'm Garry Jacobs, the president of the World Academy of Art and Science, and the executive director of a program that we'd like to share with you this morning called Human Security for All. I'd first like to thank our hosts and partners, Arizona State, Peter, Amanda, for doing such a tremendous job in convening such a diversity of committed organizations and individuals looking at the different dimensions of this unprecedented challenge that humanity faces today. In spite of all the commitments that were unprecedented commitments that have been made by governments around the world and other organizations to address these pressing challenges. Yesterday we heard from Mary Robinson. She spoke very beautifully and said at one point, you know, what we really need now, in addition to all that's being done from the top down, in addition to the commitment to 17 SDGs and 169 targets, and all of the initiatives and programs that are going on, the policy changes and everything, there's still something missing. And I think we all feel there's something missing, and that's really why we're here. We're here to try to find out what we can add to what's already been done that will help us cross the line and accelerate progress on implementation. Yesterday, many of you would have heard our colleague Ketan Patel talking about the work that our sister partner organization, Force for Good, is doing on other strategies that could be introduced to close the gap. There's been so much focus on money, focus on the catalytic role of technology and other initiatives. And we'd like to speak about one more, one that has been reflected here. As Mary Robinson said yesterday, what we really need is a movement of movements. We need a global movement of transformation. This is not just a question of getting the right policy right. This is really a question of mobilizing global society in a way that has never been done before. We don't have the track record of how to do that. This morning we heard the presentations, excellent presentations on some of the dependency of key issues for humanity linked to climate change, the health dependency, the food linkage. And of course, it's not just to climate change, it's to the whole range of ecological issues that it's raised. But actually, what's going on today is linked to every dimension of our lives. Not just food, not just health, peace and security, governance, economic livelihood, political stability, the safety of communities, the migration of people as climate refugees or other types of refugees, peace and security, they're all linked together. And the SDGs does a wonderful job of trying to identify the broadest goals that we have to achieve if we're going to address these, because they are all interlinked. And the must-haves, the 10 must-haves, try to take it further to see what's underneath all of these. What are the common denominators that if we can focus on these as practically as we're trying to do now, that we can make an impact? And we'd like to add to that list one new, it's not a new dimension because it's been mentioned dozens of times already in the meeting, but for a formalized strategy, how do we mobilize global society? Last year, the World Academy was approached by the United Nations Trust Fund on Human Security and asked whether we would work with them in partnership on a global campaign for human security. And I'll announce up front that we're not experts in global campaigning, but we're absolutely convinced that what they were asking is something essential. We can't do it ourselves, so we're working with partners around the world by working together that this could be done. The idea of human security was launched by the UNDP in 1994 in the Human Development Report. And again, last year, UNDP came out again with their Human Security in the Anthropocene, which really stressed that a top-down approach is not going to be enough changing the policies, doing things at the level of the UN or at national governments, as important as they are, we're not getting sufficient support from the bottom up to address all of the critical human security needs. And we think there's not only a truth there, but there's an opportunity there. Because when we talk together, we talk in terms of CO2 levels and all types of technical goals, which really don't mean much to the global general public, even if there are many who are educated. I'm working in India for decades, and I see even the educated youth don't really gravitate to the numbers that we talk and the factors that we talk. There's got to be a complementary language and approach for them. And the Human Security for All campaign is an effort to reach out to all sectors of global society, at all levels of global society, in all regions of global society. Quite an ambitious task. And just to give you an example, very briefly, we're working with the Interparliamentary Union, as is ASU doing their work on the sustainability issue. We're working under the peace and security part of it. 170 parliaments of the world. They want to know, we're working with their parliamentarians. The parliamentarians want to know, what can we do about this to promote the human security of our citizens? Because that's what will gain support, public support. We're working with the Inter-Academy panel, 140 national academies and regional academies around the world. We've got scientists in every field working, but how do we align their work collectively, research collectively at the global level to focus on meeting human security needs that every human being on Earth can understand the relevance and importance of this? CO2 level I may not understand, but I understand when mortality rates are going up and food prices are going up and energy source shortages are there and there's no jobs available. This is something we can all, every person without knowing the jargon can understand it. We're working with Congo, the Confederation of NGOs, the big NGOs around the world. What can the civil society organizations, many of you may be involved already with Congo, what can the civil society organizations do? We're working with artists, with universities through the SDSN network. How should the universities be changing the education we're doing, not just the research that we're doing, to prepare the youth in the next generation to really, regardless of what field we're in, regardless of what our employment goals are, what do we need to understand as global citizens to really contribute to this? So I'd like to just turn it over to my colleague, Walt Stinson, who's on our board at the Academy and is a key co-chair of the Human Security for All campaign, to give an example from we're just 7 months old in our campaign, to give an example of how public is responding to this initiative. Walt?
Thanks, Garry. We've talked a lot here about technology. We've also talked a lot about what we should be doing. I want to take a minute to talk about what we are doing. The Human Security for All campaign is really a campaign to address freedom from want, freedom from fear, and freedom from indignity. Climate change is a big component of that. I feel that technology is really one of the key answers to the problem, to solving these problems, because the problems are scaling up exponentially, and tech is one of the few sectors that actually scales up exponentially in terms of providing solutions. Yes, tech is a double-edged sword. It does have its problems, but it also offers us a way forward and provides solutions to the world's biggest problems. So what I've tried to do, I spent most of my career, all my career really, in the tech sector as a tech entrepreneur. And as the managing director of HS4A, I've tried to bring the tech sector and have brought the tech sector into the conversation. On Monday, we had an announcement at the UN that tech is now one of the pillars of human security. I think that's an important development because it recognizes that tech is now in everything. Tech John Deere is a tech company now. John Deere is going to provide solutions to some of these food issues that we were just talking about a minute ago. We're trying to engage the tech industry from top to bottom. And CTA has become, the Consumer Technology Association, which is the world's most powerful tech organization, has actually become a partner of HS4A to help us promulgate these messages down through the tech industry, starting with their board of directors, tech CEOs, and then at CES 2024, the 150,000 people attendee tech show that occurs every year. There will be a section there called Eureka Park that attempts to unleash and promote the entrepreneurs in developing countries, because that's one of the keys here too, is to get these developing country innovating and releasing entrepreneurship to solve some of their own problems internally, rather than having these problems, expecting these problems to be solved by outside forces like development funds and things like that. So I'd like to turn it over to Chantal to talk a little bit more about that topic.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and congratulations to ASU for putting all these people together and actually trying to find solution to these problems. So I think I have very few minutes. I just want to address three things. One is, I do believe entrepreneurs are our saviors. And we have a lot of entrepreneurs in developing countries at the rural, the most remote areas that are finding social and environmental solution to all these problems. The problem is, those solutions are very adapted to these areas, and the endowment of those countries do not scale or replicate because they don't get finance. Why? Because we tend to finance only the technologies which are very capital intensive that come out of Cambridge and Silicon Valley. How do we address that? We have technology now to document these bottom-up, frugal innovation on the ground that are real solution to the problem by stacking the E and the S, environment and social. The second one I'd like to bring is, and it was mentioned in the previous panel, but also in the panel that I was part of yesterday, which was very interesting, and we need coalition of the willing. I work at the UN, I'm at UN Conference on Trade and Development. I don't know how many times per week somebody brings me a solution, and it's very good solution. But the next day I have somebody else bringing another solution to the same problem. But these people don't talk to each other. And I believe the solutions are all out there. We just need to put these people together with each piece of the solution together. So ASU, count on us. We can support you. And please keep the good work on doing that. And the third one would be, we need to fix the economic and the trade system. They're systemically preventing us from achieving the SDGs and climate change. I mean, we have an economic system that maximizes one of the dimensions of the SDGs, economics, at the expense of the other two, social and environment. Yesterday, in one of the groups I was in, they mentioned the social solidarity economy. That's an economic model that actually try not to maximize profit, but maximize social, environmental, and economic issues. And these models exist world over. There's circular economy, there's the blue economy, there's all these economies. How do we support those? Same with the trade system. And then we need regulation. And that goes back full circle to what Garry mentioned. To be able to put in place the regulation that we need to advance at the speed at which we need to, we need people to put the pressure on their government. The political economy of decision-making is now twisted around. And all we're talking about, the narrative is about zero-sum game. And we all know, because we've all seen it, we've worked with the people where there's win-win solution. And so let's change the narrative to these win-win as opposed to the zero-sum game and us against you. Thank you.
So to close our our spotlight session, and just to summarize, the takeaway we'd like to communicate is, in addition to all the efforts that are being made at the top level, at the international level, at the national level, in different sectors and all, we think we need, and this is, I'm going back to what Mary said yesterday again, we need a bottom-up that's a complement. It's not either or. We need society. We need to talk to society in a language they will understand, which is a personal language for them. Personal messaging. What does this mean for my or your food security, health security, human rights, freedom from fear, economic opportunity, and so forth? Gender equality. Thank you. Highest on the list. Yesterday, Sandrine Dixon said 2 critical factors are inequality and poverty. And the gender equality is really high on the list. And the youth, energizing the youth is real. We need the whole world society to work with us on this, because it's for everybody. It's human security for everybody. Thank you.